So we've got Dr. Scott Saunders here, and he is going to be speaking to us about health. And guess what? We're not going to have any technical issues because we're not going to use any of this technology, right? Thank you very much. Yeah, and I'd like to say that we're going to probably stay till about 4:30, a little bit like half hour longer than we'd planned, because we can. Okay?
Bathroom break?
Yeah, fine.
Bathroom
5 minutes? All right. Anybody wants to take a break? No? And I speak 2 languages, so I can't hold the candle, but what I have to say is more about health and wealth, but remembering one thing that Gandhi said, that health is the first wealth. And so if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. I actually have a patient who has more wealth than he could spend in his lifetime, but he's very unhealthy, and so he can't do anything. He's in bed. So it's kind of not useful to have a lot of wealth if you don't have health. So it's a really good thing to put together, the health and wealth. The way I got started is I went to medical school. I went to UCLA and I got a degree, and I was going to, save the world, and I actually have a t-shirt still from UCLA, and it's a Save the World t-shirt from medical school. And then I went into residency in a family practice residency program, got board certified, and I started working for the county of Santa Barbara. After a short time working in the county of Santa Barbara, I got a position as medical director of a nursing home. Now this is really interesting. People are coming into the nursing home. As medical director, I have to take everybody that doesn't have a doctor or that doctors don't want to see. And they usually have lists of medications, 20, 30 medications long. So I had to find out how to help these people get healthy the best way I could. And the medications were often blocking that. So I would call the cardiologist and I'd say, okay, he's on 4 blood pressure medications. Can we get that down to 2? Cardiologist, absolutely not. Every one of those is absolutely needed. So I'd call the rheumatologist. Okay, 6 arthritis medications. Is this really necessary? Absolutely, every one is necessary. So what we learned in medical school is that if you're on more than 6 medications, you're more likely to die from your drugs than you are from any disease you could possibly be treating. Any disease. So this was a difficult thing because everybody said, no. Everybody had, it's all compartmentalized, right? So I was kind of left to myself, so I started researching. And I go, oh, that medication, alendronate, it's a blood pressure or osteoporosis medication, unnecessary. Take that off immediately. And I could replace it with vitamin D pretty easily because actually vitamin D works better. So I just one thing at a time, I started learning this on my own. And then I found anti-aging medicine, the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, and then Institute for Functional Medicine. These 2 groups of people train doctors on how to help people live long and healthy lives and get off medications. So what I wanted to talk about today is that everything you've heard about health is wrong. That's what it is. And by the way, you know what? I, years ago, started a personal bank, with a different company, and it's been really good for me. So I wanted to acquire a business, right? So meanwhile, I went through a divorce, lost everything, and I had all of this other stuff go on. I couldn't get a loan to acquire a business. Guess what? I had my personal bank. I didn't have to get a bank loan. I had my own money, and I was able to actually acquire the business. And I tried to get a loan. Couldn't. Well, we tried really hard. Well, we could get loans at what, 30%? They were really that seriously. They wanted 30% to give me a loan, and it wasn't even that much money. So anyway, so for health. What are the things that you've heard about health? Any, has anyone ever heard that you can exercise to lose weight?
Yes.
You've heard that?
Mm-hmm.
Is it true?
Yeah.
Yes.
No. Absolutely.
Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Okay. So can you exercise to lose weight? This is a really interesting concept. Okay. To burn 1 pound of fat, how much exercise does it take?
3,500 calories.
Exactly. So so what does that require? So if you weigh 150 pounds, you have to run a 6-minute mile for 30 miles. How many of you do that every day? How long does it take you to put on a pound of fat?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay.
How fast
So
can you? Yeah.
run 30 miles versus 2 minutes of eating. Are you ever going to lose weight by exercising? No. And that's pretty much what the research has shown. So people are still told. I saw, what was it? It was The Biggest Loser. And they had these physical therapists on and just like, come on, faster, you idiot. The guy's like, trying to get that little cycle to go faster. And it's not going to do anything. It's useless. It's wasted effort, right?
So what's the answer?
So what's the answer? Excellent. What's the answer? Okay. Okay, so there's 2 separate circles that we're dealing with here. And one of them is exercise, and the other one is food. And the amount of fat we have on our body is only related to food, period. There's no other way around that. People will tell you, oh, it's my thyroid. Is it your thyroid? No, it's not your thyroid. People say, well, it's just my metabolism. Is it your metabolism? Well, absolutely. So that's why you can have 2 people eating the exact same things. One's gaining weight, one's losing weight. You're like, what the heck? Why does that happen? Differences in metabolism. Okay, there's differences. And hormones have an effect on that, including thyroid and all that. But the fact of the matter is, if you're gaining weight, you're eating too much, period. There's no way around that. You can't exercise your way out of it. Yeah?
Is it too much or too much of the wrong?
Or too much. Or too much. It's too much.
Right.
It's too much.
Okay.
If you're losing weight, it's not enough. And that's it. That's the principle. So you have the food. If you have too much fat, then you're eating too much. And exercise is really important for a whole bunch of other things, like not getting depressed, like keeping your brain. You actually maintain your brain by exercising. Bet you didn't know that. The muscle mass, keeping your muscle mass up, you have to exercise. You can't sit around and build muscle. That's another myth that they say you can take L-carnitine, sit around and watch TV and gain muscle, right? Wrong. That doesn't work. That's a myth. It doesn't happen. You actually have to exercise, and you have to exercise your brain. So I know Geeta here. Geeta has not retired. And she started the Waldorf school, and she still exercises her brain, and it still works today, don't you, Geeta? Yeah. So, let's see. Yes?
How good or bad is taking testosterone after you get to a certain age to build body mass or muscle or bone or whatever? What's your position on that?
With hormones, it depends. The problem we have with hormones, all hormones, whether you're a woman going through menopause or a man going through andropause or whatever they want to call it, the hormone levels are dependent, they're so individual. So you have like estrogen, this huge range, testosterone, this huge range of normal, where you have some men are 100, some men are 1,000. They have 10 times the amount of hormone as this guy. And the guy, it's really interesting. So they did this test on testosterone, and they took all these men that had low testosterone and low libido. And they said, we're going to give you testosterone. They gave them shots of testosterone. And only 10% of them said their libido improved. 10%. 90% of them didn't have any libido effect from it, in other words. So the testosterone thing is, I had somebody in my office just recently, and he said, okay, I can tell the difference. When I take the testosterone, I'm more focused, I have better, my muscle strength is better, my mass is better, and I just function better on testosterone. And that's great, because he did have low testosterone, and so when he took testosterone, it improved. But for the majority, and I've seen plenty of them that say, yeah, you know, I was getting shots, I was getting pellets, I was getting pills, and it didn't really. So a lot of times, instead of going by test results, I'll actually look at the individual and see how they function. So your function would have to do with that more than what your test results happen to be. Yeah. Okay, so here we are, modern medicine. I mean, we're in the 21st century, right? And we have just these incredible things you hear about every day about. They have a limb now where a guy could, it's connected to his brain where he has control of his artificial limb from his brain, can pick up an egg, you know, and set it down just with his brain power. It's an artificial limb, it's all mechanical, right? And then he can pick up an apple and crush the apple, just like the $6 million man, right? It was way before your time, you gotta know what that is. And yet, we're still living in the dark ages. We're still taking drugs. Do you know where drugs came from? Does anyone know?
Satan.
1910. 1910. All these drugs, this idea of treating a symptom with a drug, it was a Kinsey report done by the American Medical Association and the Carnegie Foundation. They said, we're going to wipe out all of the different types of medicine, and we're just going to take the drugs. That's all we're going to do. It was the Johns Hopkins model. So they picked the Johns Hopkins model and said, this is what we're going to do. And so from 1910, that was 19th century medicine, until now, has anything changed? We are still stuck in the 19th century model of treating a symptom with a drug. Right? You go in to your doctor says, you have high blood pressure. What are you going to do about that? Oh, here, take a drug. How long is it going to last? Well, 4 hours, and then what? Well, take another one. And then what? Take another one. Who said that? At what point are you no longer going to need that drug?
You ran out of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and here's the big thing. Okay. So you have high blood pressure. This is really interesting. Watch this. Okay. So, graph, right? And you have death. Now let's just do stroke. Stroke and blood pressure. Okay, so blood pressure versus stroke rate. Here's what you have. You ever seen that graph? Oh my gosh, it's so perfect, this correlation. As your blood pressure goes up, your stroke rate goes up in a like almost perfect line. It's really rare to see that in anything biological. So it makes perfect sense, right? You got to bring your blood pressure down to lower your stroke risk. Does that make sense? Okay. So you take your doctor says, here, take this blood pressure medication. It'll lower your blood pressure and lower your stroke risk. Is that true? Not true. Here's the weird thing about it. Here's your stroke risk. Here's your blood pressure. Right here. Stroke risk is here. What happens if you take a blood pressure medication? Your blood pressure goes down and you end up over here. And multiple studies, long-term studies, we're talking about 600,000 middle-aged men with high blood pressure followed this line, and that's exactly what happens in every case. Your stroke risk does not change appreciably with lowering the blood pressure with the drug. Why not? Yeah, it's putting a Band-Aid over a cancer. The blood pressure is not the problem. It's not the blood pressure. That's not the problem.
It does make the numbers go down.
It does make the numbers go down, right? But all you've done is put the Band-Aid over it and covered it up. So why are we still living in a 19th century medical model in the 21st century?
Because it makes money.
Because it makes money. Exactly. That's what it is. Okay. So if you understand that everything you hear is wrong because it's marketing, then you'll start saying, okay, what's the truth about that? So let's talk about just a couple of things. Okay, just recently the multi-center trial and meta-analysis of depression medications in England was released, and so depression medications for depression, they could not find any difference between placebo and the medication. No difference. And this has been true. Prozac has been tested over many years. It's about the same as placebo. It's like a little less, a little more. It's like right on the line of the same as placebo. Somehow they pass it through the FDA. I don't know, but they do. What about vitamins? Are they good for you? Does everybody take, how many do you take a one-a-day vitamin? You take your vitamins every day, right? They're good for you. They keep you strong. They whatever. For most of the history of mankind, a disease is either infectious disease or deficiency disease. Those are the two major diseases up until today. Today it's just the opposite. We live in a day of too much. We have all the diseases of too much. Before, it was only the kings. So when they had, like in Babylon, they talked about diabetes. Only the kings had diabetes. You never saw the peasants with diabetes. That's just the way it was. Why?
Diet-induced diabetes.
Because they ate too much. Has everybody ever read in the Bible about Daniel?
Yeah.
Daniel the prophet?
Yeah.
Okay, what did he say? I'm not eating the king's food because it'll damage my body. And what did he eat? He ate the peasant's food. And he was healthier. And so from thousands of years ago to now, it's always been the same. It's just that we're so abundant today that it's processed food that used to be only kings could get. It's the abundance of food. It's all the meat that we eat. It's a lot of extra stuff, and that's really where most of our problems come in. So, what about vitamins? Do we get enough?
Probably too much.
Probably too much for most people. Okay. The idea of a one-a-day vitamin is a marketing program. It's not a health program. If you take a vitamin every single day, what happens? Your body becomes accustomed to having it, and you become less effective and less efficient at using it. You actually don't use it as well. Okay, so I'll give you an example, a study done on magnesium, where they gave magnesium at 1 gram of magnesium a day, and they measured the levels so that they had an area under the curve. They said, this is how much you absorbed of that magnesium. Over a period of only 90 days, it's just 3 months, they were only absorbing 30% of what they originally started with. 30%. And with mostly minerals, if you're taking extra of certain minerals, it will impair your absorption of other minerals. If you're taking copper, you will not get zinc. If you're taking zinc, you will not get copper, because they have one mechanism for the absorption of like divalent cations. So only those are going to be absorbed. So if you're flooding those receptors with one, the others will just go right on by. You won't get them. So sometimes taking like a multi-mineral, you're taking calcium at twice or 4 times the dose of magnesium, and you're saying, oh, I'm getting magnesium and calcium. You may not be. That might not even be true. So what do you do about vitamins? How do you reconcile? What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to just get it from your food? Is that a crazy idea or what? Just get your vitamins from your food. So that's what I want to get into, is give you guys practical knowledge, something that you can use, that you can say, oh, this is how I'm going to get all of the nutrients I need without getting too much. because I just told you about we have all the diseases of too much, and now how am I going to get all the stuff that I need, the vitamins that I need? Almost everything, every vitamin can be obtained from food. There are certain ones that can't, and so write these down. These are the ones you actually have to supplement. Vitamin D. Why vitamin D? Because of our lifestyle, because of the way we live today, because we have artificial lights, and we work indoors, and we don't go outside in the sunshine very much. And when we do, what do we put on? Sunscreen, hats, clothes. It was estimated in, I think it was Africa where they did the study, that the average person was getting 10,000 units of vitamin D a day. And these are dark-skinned people getting 10,000 units of vitamin D a day from the sun. If you were to go, if a light-skinned person were to go to like Hawaii, you can't do it in Santa Barbara, but if you went to Hawaii and spent 10 minutes, like your basket, 10 minutes on one side, 10 minutes on the other, you make about 20,000 units of vitamin D. And they're giving us 400 unit doses, right? Our pills are 400, 800, 1,000. You know, these are like really small supplemental doses. The prescription dose has always been 50,000 units once a week. That's that for people who are deficient in vitamin D. So we have a disease today that's rampant. Almost everybody has. It's called osteoporosis. In the old days, it was called rickets. And rickets is just not enough mineralization of your bones, not enough calcium on the bones. So how do you get the bones to put more calcium on? Exercise. Thank you. I thought somebody was going to say vitamin D, and I was going to say no. But yeah, vitamin D is important. You have to have enough calcium. But if you don't exercise, it's useless. Because this is the cool thing about it. Okay, so I want to tell you something. Here's really cool. Okay. As we're going throughout the day, we are destroying our bodies all day long. If you're lifting up, if you're doing any kind of physical labor, you're tearing muscle fibers. Just walking across the room, you're making micro fractures in your bones, right? So you're tearing down your body. You're thinking. When you're thinking, you're making a whole bunch of oxygen-free radicals that are destroying your brain. And this is going on all the time. It's called metabolism. So metabolism is like all the energy that we produce. But it's also all of the chemical reactions that are going on around that energy, which includes making oxygen-free radicals. We hear about those. Oh no, those are horrible, right? Well, I'll tell you about it. So there's two different kinds of metabolism, and this is what a lot of people don't understand. In medical school, we were taught that this was going on all the time, but it's actually two separate processes that are going on. One is called catabolic. The other one is, anyone know?
Anabolic.
Very good, anabolic. So there's the T. We always got to have a T, right? The catabolic is when you're breaking down. The anabolic is when you're building up and repairing and cleansing. So you're told that, you got to go on the internet and buy this special cleanse, and that's going to clean out your body, and you're going to have all these benefits from it, right? But we don't realize that that's really not the way it works. The way it works is our bodies are made to be catabolic sometimes. This is when we're breaking down what? When we're exercising, right? What else? Eating. You're breaking down food, storing, creating a lot of oxygen-free radicals. Actually, you're awake. You have hormones like adrenal hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, all of those. And all of this is happening when we're doing stuff during the day. So when does anabolism happen? Sleeping, right. So you're sleeping. And let's see, resting, fasting. The hormones are totally different. Because when you're making cortisol, you're not making something called melatonin. And human growth hormone, HGH, is only released at night. And that's how you rebuild. So, during the day, I go to the gym, I work out, I tear all my muscle fibers down. But then I don't sleep that night, or I go to sleep really late. Oh, that's right. You have to sleep? This is really weird. So from a normal circadian rhythm happening, you have to be sleeping between 10 and 2. 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. It's not just any sleep. You don't release human growth hormone when you take a nap during the day. Or if you go to bed after midnight, you may not release human growth hormone. It only happens during deep sleep, which happens in the early part of the evening. The later part of the evening, you're remodeling your brain. It's a totally different process going on. But the deep sleep happens, if you've ever seen a sleep study, the deep sleep happens in the early part. And that's the time that you release the human growth hormone, and that's the human growth hormone that does the repair. So this process is totally interconnected. You have to have melatonin to sleep. You have to be asleep to 10 and 2 in order to make your human growth hormone. And here's the kicker. If you're not fasting, if your stomach is not empty, you don't release ghrelin that allows you to release the human growth hormone. Ghrelin is, G-H-R-E-L-I-N, is the growth hormone releasing hormone. That's how it got its name. You have to be fasting. So what if you eat a big meal before you go to bed? You're not going to make human growth hormone, you're not going to repair. So now I've just worked out, I've broken down all my muscles, and I'm not going to repair. I'm going to wake up sore in the morning. I'm going to go work out again. I'm going to tear down more muscles. And then I'm going to end up going to the orthopedist for an overuse injury. Because I never got anabolic. Right? This is aging. This information right here is the greatest information I can give you today. Why? Because all of you are young enough that it will prevent you from aging. Because all of the cleansing happens during this anabolic state. All the repair happens. All the building happens. You need that human growth hormone. And you need to be asleep, and you need to have it at a certain time. So you can make some simple rules from this. Simple rule. Number 1, don't eat after 6. Now, there's several books out recently that have shown this to be a very important part of reversing Alzheimer's disease. Dr. Bredesen put out his book on the end of Alzheimer's, it's called. He's a researcher at UCLA. And then the longevity diet from Dr. Longo at USC. Both of them have shown you can't eat before bed. You got to be fasting. In fact, that's one of the big myths. Everything you've heard is wrong, right? In medical school, we were told fasting is horrible for you. Don't ever fast. How many of you have nutrition degrees or have any nutrition? 1. Okay, this is what they're taught in nutrition school. 5 small meals a day with snacks in between so that you never get an empty stomach, right? That's what you're told. They're still teaching that. You know what? It's totally wrong. Totally wrong. Because what you need is to eat, and then you reset your digestive system, and then you eat again, and then you reset your digestive system. If you don't have 4 hours or so between meals, your stomach never gets empty, and what happens? You're making this stomach acid, but you can't reset, so you get low stomach acid. A constant level of low stomach acid causes acid reflux, poor digestion, celiac disease. Yes?
So would you say 10 o'clock in the morning breakfast, 2 o'clock in the afternoon lunch, and then forget about anything after that? Do you have any breakdown for that?
Yeah.
There are so many different ways of doing it. Okay, so there is one way where you can, one great way to fast is a 6-hour window of eating, and whether you move that hour any 6 hours anywhere you want. Some people go, they eat their first meal at noon, and then their last meal is at 6, and then they're done for the rest of the day. And that works too. Or if you want to move it earlier, that's fine. And that's one way. That's Dr. Bredesen at UCLA. He says that's the best way. For Alzheimer's disease, he works it that way. At USC, Dr. Longo says do 5 days in a row of fasting once a month. But you don't have to totally fast. You still have to have an empty stomach at night. But you can eat 300 to 500 calories a day. And that would be like, if you think